The Lifetime Achievement Award is going to be presented by Sean Weir, National Managing Partner and CEO of Borden Ladner Gervais. Sean?
At Borden Ladner Gervais, we're proud to be a sponsor of the Canadian General Council Awards, and in particular the Lifetime Achievement Award. I think this is the 11th year that we've sponsored this award, and we're just delighted. Like many in private practice, we work in partnership with corporate counsel every day, and we have a front row seat on their challenges, pressures, and success. General counsel make a very valuable contribution to the business of our clients, and we're pleased to recognize their accomplishments tonight. Before announcing our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, I would also like to add my congratulations to each of the finalists. Their demanding roles have required both exceptional legal expertise and superior business acumen, particularly during these ongoing volatile economic times. And each of the candidates in the Lifetime Achievement category have had outstanding careers. Tonight's recipient is no exception, and he's greatly admired by those who know him. But before he comes up, let's watch Jim's story on video.
I think there's no question how important capital markets are to everybody in the country and around the world. Everybody relies upon the fairness and efficiency of capital markets. I find the practical having to deal with a specific circumstance and solving a problem as the most important element of law.
Jim's contributions to the legal profession and the securities bar in particular are extensive and extraordinary.
In one way or another, James has really dedicated his life to making sure that Ontario's capital markets are well run, well regulated, accessible, fair.
One of the main issues that Jim has focused on in his time as vice chair has been the interests of investors and shareholders.
I think he's just got a really good legal mind. He's just good at what he does. If you want a lawyer, pick Jim. He's a very, very good lawyer.
He's one of the few lawyers in our community who has successfully navigated between the private practice and the public sector. When he was a young partner, he was seconded to the OSC to be the first general counsel.
Well, I first heard that Jim was going to come up as general counsel, not from him, but from Jim Bailey, who was his mentor at Tories. I think that Jim came up as a good lawyer and left as a better lawyer.
When he was welcomed back to private practice, he was recognized as a leading expert in that area, and then for the following 2 decades, Jim led some of the largest M&A transactions in Canada.
Jim has been a feature of Tories from the beginning of my practice. He wasn't actually here at Tories when I arrived. He was at the OSC as its first general counsel, but he returned to the firm shortly after my arrival, and I practiced closely with him until he left again to become vice chair in 2007.
And he was vice chair for almost 8 years of dedicated service. The significant role of a vice chair is obviously policy development as well as adjudication.
And when Jim came back as vice chair, you can see in his decisions something that I'd describe as a judicial temperament, just weighing the fact that there's more than one side in every argument.
James's decisions have had the effect of establishing important new law. He was always someone who cut to the heart of the issue and really exposed what were the core elements of a particular matter.
He didn't just play the role of vice chair. He used that role to develop the law in a very unique way, and everybody talks about his contribution to the public interest jurisdiction in our province and in our country.
Jim took on a lot of adjudication. He did a lot of cases, he did a lot of hearings, and the work that he did in that area is instrumental. And some of the work that he did will be precedent-setting and very important for the Commission.
The body of his work has influenced both corporate law practitioners and the securities litigation bar, which is really a unique feat.
is unique about Jim's practice at Torrey's is that you will see he led a number of really significant transactions. Because of his experience at the OSC and his real deep understanding of the way regulators thought and what mattered to them, we always went to Jim with our toughest questions.
He was an invaluable colleague and always presented, to me at least, advice that was most helpful in dealing with issues that were often very complex.
I had an office down the hall from Jim, and I made sure that I continued to have an office down the hall from Jim.
And Jim is a very accessible, available, hardworking.
He's extremely collegial, he's very supportive.
And when things got difficult, he was always so calm. He trusted his judgment, and so he was very helpful.
He's insightful, he's smart, he has excellent judgment.
Il est généreux, intègre, un homme de principe, un homme courageux.
He knew everything about this area of the law. I can't overemphasize that. If it had happened, he knew it. He understood the history of it. He'd been there during the development of it. He could tell you the way regulators would think about it.
He's a very just person. He believes in justice. And I think all of that just comes together in saying, well, what a great job he did as a vice chair for 8 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the recipient of this year's Lifetime Achievement Award, Jim Turner.
Thank you all very much for that very enthusiastic response to a video I had not seen before. Very kind words. I am almost dumbstruck to comment. In my notes, I noted, what am I going to say about the video? And I'm afraid anything I have to say is going to be a disappointment after that. As a number of recipients have said tonight, nobody accomplishes anything without a lot of help from a number of very talented people. Sharon Garrity, I think, has said that I was a bit of a hayseed when I arrived at Torrey's from London, Ontario, as an articling student. I remember my first day, I got 4 office consolidations. 3 of them were corporate statutes. One was a blue book called the Securities Act. I had never heard of the Securities Act, and I remember vaguely wondering what it was the Securities Act would do. So I had a very steep learning curve at Torrey's. Fortunately, there were very smart and talented people who would help me along the way, and it's impossible really to give enough back to those people who turned me into a reasonably good securities lawyer by the time I arrived at the Securities Commission. Torrey supported me when I decided in 1987 that it made sense to take a leave of absence and become the first general counsel at the Ontario Securities Commission. I remember I was told at the time that nobody wanted the job. No Bay Street lawyer could figure out what benefit there ever could be of being a general counsel at the Securities Commission. To me, I thought there were a whole bunch of interesting things that it would give rise to. So I didn't hesitate at all. In arriving there, I indicated to the director at the time that I was a solicitor and not a litigator, and so don't expect me to do any hearing work. But fortunately, Joe Groya was associate general counsel, so we were a couple of young guys. I was the solicitor, he was the litigator. But I found very early on M&A hearings that I couldn't sit just quietly at the counsel table and not say anything. I really felt that the issues were important, and I was overcome by the need to get on my feet and make submissions. And so, as a result of that, I think it led the combination of Joe and I to being able to be counsel on behalf of the Commission at the Canadian Tire hearing. But it was also during a period, there were all sorts of exciting things happening at the commission during that period. We had a financial crisis. We had insider trading scandals in the United States. We had new M&A rules coming into effect. So the result of all of that, when I went back to Tories, was people perceived me as having some expertise in securities law and mergers and acquisitions. And it resulted in what Sharon described, an M&A practice, but it was a practice I had the benefit of working with very talented people. Jim Bailey, a senior partner from whom I learned a lot, but the junior people, Sharon Garrity and John Amanalidis, who worked very closely with me. But as a result of the time at the Securities Commission, I knew that I wanted to return. There were just too many interesting issues and policy matters that I thought were important. So I got the opportunity to be vice chair. And when I took on that role, I was mostly focused. I thought the most interesting thing was the policy development. And there are and were a lot of important policy initiatives that I worked on while at the commission. And of course, it's staff of the commission that really works hard and with the laboring oar on a lot of those policy initiatives. But I was also expected to become involved as a panel member in adjudication. And I was very fortunate to be chairing panels in very interesting legal securities matters coming before the commission. I always had the benefit of commissioners on those panels, often who were not lawyers, who made a fantastic contribution in that role. But I also would say I certainly had the benefit of other colleagues at the commission, and certainly the other vice chairs, Larry Ritchie at the time and Mary Condon, their contributions to what I was doing. So it was certainly not all me, but it was very interesting. It was a very, very fulfilling role to be playing. So I really would like to thank my former colleagues at Tories for everything they've done for me, my colleagues at the Ontario Securities Commission, a number of whom are here, who were equally supportive in everything I did. I have to add that my wife, Anne, provided wonderful support throughout the piece. I've always been a workaholic. She was always there to attend to the important things, so I really appreciated that contribution. Frankly, I never expected anybody was going to go back and look at what I had done and try and assess it and whether it would qualify for some kind of award. So this really was a wonderful surprise. One of the things it's led to has been just so many positive comments that I've heard from people that I've dealt with over the years. It's just been extraordinary, the warmth and positive comments I've received, and part of that is as a result of this award. So I very much thank the Canadian General Counsel Association for this award. It is really very special, and I appreciate it to the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.